everyone, thanks so much for listening to the 7th episode of Clumsy Candid Catholics, a podcast where we talk about the joys and struggles of being young and Catholic. Today we'll be talking about sainthood, what it means to be a saint, our personal perspectives on striving for sainthood, and ways that we can do so. Hello everyone, thank you so much for listening to Clumsy Candid Catholics. My name is Teresa, I'm your host for this episode, and I'm joined by my bestest co-hosts and friends ever, Emma and Lorraine. Woot woot!
Hi!
Which one are you?
I'm Lorraine.
My name is Emma.
Good. So just before we get started talking about sainthood for this episode, we want to recognize that it is Indigenous Peoples Day, October 12th. And to recognize that, I wanted to share this cool thing that I found. It is a number that you can text, and you can text it the city that you are in, and it'll tell you whose land that you occupy. So if I were to type in Seattle, Washington, it would tell me that we are on Coast Salish, Duwamish, and Suquamish land. So the number, if you're curious, is 907-312-5085. And so you can type in the city that you're in and see whose land that you occupy. So
Yep.
yeah, just a fun fact.
So cool.
All right. So, moving into our warm-up topic, it is not a question this time. We're flipping things around.
So funny.
Recently, well, I don't know if I should say recently, because we started doing this, like,
It's been a
7
really
months
long
ago.
time.
We started playing Dungeons and Dragons, which, if you don't know what that is, well, I feel like most people would know what Dungeons
I'm a
and
little
Dragons
surprised
is.
if you don't know what it is,
No,
but it is
don't.
probably the most popular role-playing game played on a tabletop,
Yeah.
complete with dice sets.
You can't say that because we're nerds, and so it's in our circle. We can't assume that everyone knows it.
That's true. You're right. We can't
All right.
exclude.
Whatever.
Well, okay, I feel like that's how you explain. I don't even know how to explain it because I'm very new to all this. But basically, we're doing this like murder mystery story that Lorraine's wonderful cousin Lynn is our dungeon master. Is that what she? Okay.
Don't you dare take
What?
that into places it shouldn't be. A dungeon master is just the person who narrates the game and basically sets up the story. I know it sounds
didn't even
weird.
Understand?
Well, it's weird when people like actually explain what a DM is, because I feel like most people are like, "Oh yeah, my DM," or "My GM,"
okay.
my game master. So
Anyway,
you know.
Yeah, but we started this in like quarantine like 7 months ago, and we've only played like maybe 3 times throughout those 7 months.
It's true.
But I play a halfling bard named Milo, and she's very cute. And she's also mute. And so literally when we play, especially over Zoom, it's so hard to communicate because I just have to do gestures. So I'm like waving my hands around or like just making exaggerated faces, and I can't talk. And it's been very hard, but it's also very fun. So yeah.
Yeah, you're the cutest little halfling bard.
Thank you.
I play a human ranger. Her name is Diana. And she is the manifestation of everything I want to be. And she also is an exaggeration of all of my flaws. So she's just me as a ranger in this game in the best possible way. I look up to her. She's like who I really want to be when I grow up. Hopefully when I'm 25, I'll be more like her.
I can see that.
Yeah.
She's pretty cool.
She is very cool. She's very different from Milo. I feel like all of our characters are just very different from each other.
Yeah.
That's true. But I think Diana is like she's like the, what do you want from me type of character. She's also like coded to be what in our society would be Greek. So it's been fun playing her because I have to talk like this and change my voice cantation.
I know, I can't. I'm like so impressed.
My accent switches. There's certain sounds that just don't sound the same. B's and Z's and D's. That's it.
Yeah, I like the accent. It's
Yeah, I'm so impressed because I can't do it. I can't do voices.
good. I feel like you do your character well, though, Emma.
Yeah, tell us about
Thank you.
tell us about your character, Emma.
Oh my gosh. I play a half orc paladin, and his name is Shizubotu, but his name is Bo, and he's an idiot. And
He's a himbo.
yeah, he's just like, he's really dumb, but he's like beefy. So that's what I have going for me.
I love him. I love our characters' relationships with each other. Like, I really love Milo's relationships with, especially with Diana and Bo.
Yeah.
Because Milo and Bo are just like,
And then Diana's like, I will kill everyone
know
in
it.
this room if anything happens to Milo and then myself. Like, that's exactly who she is.
yeah, it's like Milo, like, kind of annoys Diana, or, like, confuses Diana. But
Yeah.
Diana's like, I will protect this small thing that
Yeah.
I don't understand.
A real quick story, because I feel like I can't resist talking about this when we're talking about Milo and Diana. Diana has a golden hind, so she has a gigantic deer as her traveling companion, and like Sylvie, played by our other friend Michaela, like I think she rolled for like animal handling or something like that and got a pretty low score, so the deer was like, I don't know about this girl. But then I think the first nat 20, so that means like on a 20-sided die you roll like just a natural 20 without adding any modifiers. Milo rolls a nat 20, and then like the deer is like, I've never seen a halfling before, but I'm gonna protect this with all my life. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with Diana, where Diana's like, what is wrong with this thing? And then she's like, never mind, I'm going to protect it with all of my life.
Child.
Yes.
A literal child.
Literally. She's only 15, Milo, I think.
Aw.
I'm pretty sure. But anyway, that's our D&D adventures. It's been fun. Even though we've only played 3 times. Last night was a time. We entered our first battle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Diana literally was like, I'm gonna shoot him! And then she did. And that's how we entered the battle.
I think where we're at right now, my character is like right in front of the enemy.
you're
I was
just
like-
like, I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, I probably should have thought that through a little bit more.
No, I'll back you up. I have a plan.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's
let's
okay.
do it.
We're fighting a werewolf, and Sylvie, played by Michaela, had silver bits, and so like that was the last thing that happened in our game.
Oh, yeah.
She tossed to Diana the silver bits so that they can both shoot arrows at this werewolf.
Okay, so Milo's just gonna like throw it.
Milo just throws the silver bits.
Yeah, that's all.
Ouch.
Ow, that hurt. Okay. Anyway, thank you for engaging in that very good discussion about D&D. It has been very fun. All right. So transitioning into the meat of our episode today about sainthood, we just kind of, how did we come up with this topic? I don't remember.
I think you just pulled it out of your butt, T, honestly.
Oh, sainthood. I'm pulling sainthood out of my butt. That's what we're talking about.
Well, I feel like it's like actually pretty good timing, because this episode will be released before All Saints Day, which is a
that's
holy
true.
day of obligation. Catholics, you
That's
must
true.
go.
That's
to,
true.
well, okay, you don't have to go into an in-person mass right now, but you do have to
Like,
observe
yeah,
the day.
somehow with
Somehow.
like prayer or watching mass online.
November
Wait, when is
1st.
okay? November. Oh, why did I forget when it was? Okay.
Literally the day after Halloween.
Okay, so yeah, don't forget, like I did. It's November 1st, All Saints Day. So I guess to start us off with this conversation, what do you guys think it means to be a saint? And has your answer to that like changed at all throughout your life?
I think for me, initially being a saint meant like, oh, I've got to be as perfect as I can possibly be. And yeah, that's part of it. But I would answer now that I really think that sainthood is not being the projection of who we want to be. And not being like the future self, the ideal self that we build in our heads, but truly allowing ourselves to become the person that God has envisioned us to be at every moment. God's really called every single part of his creation in his divine plan and his providence to fulfill certain purposes. And I think that attaining sainthood means that we have realized our purpose, that we've discovered who we are, and that we know who we are. We are truly known and seen by the Lord, and we can be who he wants us to be.
Yeah. I think your answer makes me think a lot about like the virtue of humility. And I think that's the core of sainthood. What it means to be a saint is to be humble. And if we think of humility in the context of how you perceive yourself, humility has nothing to do with yourself. It has to do everything to do with the way that the Lord sees you. And I feel like we talked about this in the last episode, but striving to be who God wants you to be and not necessarily who you want to be. But ultimately who God wants you to be is who you want to be. But I think if we stray away from that whole thing of like, if we stray away from focusing on God's desires for us, we can become really prideful. And like you were saying, like, oh, I have to be as perfect as I can be. Then you're kind of just like focusing on, I have to be perfect because I have to appear perfect. And that's like the opposite of humility and not a way to strive for sainthood.
Yeah. For sure. And like so my brain doesn't even supply that automatically, so it's good that you guys said that, because I'm just like I think on the same note, like I'm saying the same thing, but basically like when I think about it, it's like it's more of like this recognition that like if you want to be a saint, you have to like prioritize your desire for eternal life, and like the only way that you can get there is like, from what you guys are saying, like you have to become who God wants you to be on earth, right? But it's hard because we are on earth, and worldliness is just, it's easy because I don't know, that's what everyone on the earth prioritizes or like finds value in, is like success on this earth in this life. And I think it's part of striving for sainthood is kind of recognizing that success is like, I don't know, success on the earth, and then success, I don't even know if success can be a word used for like heaven, but it's different. It's a different trajectory or a different look. I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. And I like what the both of you are saying, just in terms of like seeing sainthood as something to work for or something that I want. I don't know if you listeners are super familiar with the Enneagram Test. It's one of those personality tests that you can take for free and then talk about it forever, and then go to a party and be like, oh, my Enneagram type is blah. And so my Enneagram type is actually split right down the middle between two numbers, 1 and 2, and type 1s tend to be really, really, really obsessed with moral perfection. Like the driving fear and the problem of one is that like situates deep in their heart is this fear of corruption and a fear of like being made poorly or doing the wrong thing. And so when Emma, you say like the success here on earth is very different from what it looks like in heaven. We talk about avoiding pride and avoiding being proud about sainthood. I think too often Christians, or just holy people in general, can look at moral perfection and kind of think of it as, this is what I must do. I must do this. I must allow blah, blah. When in reality, it's like, it's what God is doing for us. Like, we cannot be perfect on our own. Yeah. We must be helped by divine grace to be able to be perfect. And I think it's really important not to look at it as I'm going to become a saint. It's more like, well, yes, I'm going to walk this road. Yes, that's the hope is that. But one acquires sainthood. One really becomes a saint not because that's the goal, but because the end goal, if there even is an end goal, is God himself, Christ himself, and being wedded to that bridegroom. That is truly that's the whole point of this.
It's true.
What? Oh,
Go,
no, Emma,
go ahead.
go.
No, go.
I was just gonna ask, what is the name of one for the Enneagram test?
Oh yeah.
I think it might be the reformer.
Oh,
Ones tend to be very visionary and very they tend to think outside the box and kind of see things. It's really black and white, I think, in some ways, but it's also very gray in other ways. But ones tend to, they tend to be like revolutionaries, visionaries, and people like that.
So you're gonna like change the world.
I'm going to dismantle oppressive systems.
Yeah, do
yes.
it.
That's good. Good. I didn't know that about ones, the whole like moral perfection thing. But you also said you're a 2. Wait, Emma, you're a 2, right?
I'm a 2 and a 4. I don't remember at all what that means, but I just remember the Enneagram is really fun.
I think the 2 is the helper, right?
Yeah.
And then 4 was
The individualist, I think.
Oh, interesting.
What are you, T?
I'm a 6. I'm a loyalist. Which all I remember from that is that I'm very distrusting of other people, apparently.
But it's because you highly value security and confidence. So it would make sense. I don't think that's a negative trait at all.
Thank you. Anyway, Enneagram
Psychology
test.
friends.
Go take it and let us know.
Now I'm
what
like
you
trying to
get.
think. I'm like, what does the Enneagram test tell me about Saint?
I mean, like, can it tell you ways that you personally strive for it? I don't know.
Well, I think it certainly gets at like
Well, they have
prominent themes in your life.
they have like a whole page on like, this is if you like actualize this part of yourself in a healthy way.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? And then like if it's unhealthy. So it's like, I guess in that sense it helps you understand yourself better.
Yeah,
And then
for
it
sure.
ties back to what you guys were saying, where it's like, if you become the person that you are meant to be. You know what I mean? I don't know.
The connection.
Wow, the Enneagram is a Catholic tool. I'm just kidding.
How to be a saint. Take the Enneagram test.
Step
Why not?
1.
I mean, there is actually a movement within Catholic organizations and workplaces to like actually pay attention to the psychology
Yeah.
of each
Yeah,
person
yeah,
because
definitely.
what do you know? The science of psychology is actually wonderful and a gift from God, you know, to really
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
No.
So actually go take the Enneagram test if you don't if you haven't already.
I mean,
think
yeah, it's a good way
helpful.
to understand to understand yourself, but also understand the way that you interact with others. Because with my job, I have to take these personality tests, and like everybody in our work has to take them, and then we like understand how everyone works and like who they work best with, who they don't work best with, and stuff. So it's a good thing.
We call
but-
that healthy work environments.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you. Workplace. I'm not gonna mention where because privacy.
But nice.
What was I gonna say? Oh my gosh. Okay, going back to like what does it mean to be a saint? I think I had the same feelings as you, Lorraine, where I thought like I have to be exactly like Saint Teresa of Calcutta to be a saint.
Amen.
And I didn't actually understand like I guess the definition of being a saint. I always just thought being a saint meant you like perform miracles and like
Right,
I mean
yeah.
saints do that like if you want to get technical, but like yeah, I have to be this like revolutionary person who was famous and had this legacy all over the world and everybody knows my name. When really sainthood just means being in heaven, like getting to
Yeah,
heaven and
yeah.
being united with
Exactly.
Christ. And I really like Emma what you said about like it is about striving for eternal life. And I feel like I don't think about eternal life all that much. And yeah, I get very caught up in things of the world, and we have to remember like there is something greater than this. So
Yeah. I mean, it's really easy. I think the fastest way that I remember that life goes on forever is just thinking about how fast, like, 5 years went in my life or how quickly a decade of my life went. And I'm not even that old, but like, seriously, like, recently I'm like, wow, did college even happen?
know,
Or
just
like
this.
it's been like 8 years since I was first in high school? What? Okay. Because it feels like yesterday. So, time moves really quickly. It really does fly by.
Yeah. I was just gonna add on what you were saying, like with the, I don't know, this image, because okay, some saints that you learn about are like, no offense, they're kind of weird. like,
Yikes.
like Saint Francis, I love him to death, right? He's like amazing, but like he like. Like he like stripped naked in front of his dad because he's like, Dad, these clothes on my back are yours and I'm giving them back to you. And so he was just like, he just took his clothes off in front of everyone. And then like when he was struggling with chastity, he just like threw himself in a thorn bush. It's like that kind of behavior I cannot like relate to at all.
Yeah.
Like maybe I should. Like I've never
That's
tried the
his
bush
style.
technique, but but like I was just thinking about recently there was a 15-year-old boy who's declared venerable, right? I think Blessed Carlo Acutis.
He was like the computer science
Yeah.
guy, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, I think just that like seeing that made me feel like, oh wow, maybe this is a little more attainable than I thought, I guess. Because like if you see his body, he's like just literally just like wearing a sweater and like jeans.
I know.
And I'm like,
It was
my
like
gosh.
taken with like a camera that we've probably used before.
yeah, exactly. So it's just like I was like, wow, I don't know, it's becoming more real. And like I think one of your first questions was like, how is the meaning of like sainthood changed for you over time? And I think it's interesting because maybe for all of us, I think before when we were like kids or before we really understood what sainthood meant, it felt a lot more unattainable because it's like, oh, those are saints and I respect them and I'm just me. But now as we are grown up and we understand that like, wow, this is possible. It's like, I don't know, it's kind of weird because it's like in my brain I know it's possible, but then at the same time as we grow up we also learn more about ourselves, and so then we know our flaws more too, right? And so we're like, I don't know, like, I don't know, it's just like, but I have so many things wrong, so how can I get there?
Right.
But at the same time, our brains know that it's
sure.
possible. So I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you brought up the example of what is his name?
Blessed Carlo Acutis? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Okay. Yeah. Like I was so shook when I saw that on Facebook. Like even what you said, like he's just wearing a sweater in a like by some mountains. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I wear sweaters by mountains.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's like, what the heck? Like, especially as young people, as young Catholics, like this is something that we're supposed to be thinking about through our whole lives, you know, not just when we're like 40 and stuff. Like we're supposed to be thinking about it now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I have something to say afterwards that
Okay.
ties into that. Sorry.
But I was just gonna say, like, it's like God wants this for us. Like we were made for this, you know. Like we were talking about Joan of Arc last episode. She was like, she was born for this. I was born for this. We were
I literally
born
love that quote so
for
much.
sainthood. Like, like God wants it for us. It's not like he wants us to fail. Like, haha, it's gonna be so hard for you. You suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
If God wants it for me, then I should want it for myself.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
anyway, you were gonna say.
Sorry, I can't help but like fangirl over Joan of Arc, who is tangentially my namesake. It's a weird thing. It's a really weird thing. Well, you were like saying, Teresa, you're like, yeah, we can't think about this only when we're like 40, and it made me jeez, I feel really in step with this particular saint. But that just made me think about Saint Teresa of Avila and how she did secretly join the Carmelites. When she was younger, because she was like, I don't want to get married. I just want to serve the Lord. I think this is right for me. And that's like her calling. But how for 20 years, she was so unbelievably lukewarm about being religious, and part of it's not her fault. Like, part of it really is that the ancient observance of Carmel, the Okarms, at the time had more relaxed rules in that particular convent, and there were a lot of nuns there, and so there were a lot of frequent visitors, blah blah. But yeah, she constantly talks about how she's like, all I did was talk in the parlor for 20 years, and I hated that I just spent so much time there. And it made me it just reminds me of the verse in Revelation where, you know, the Lamb of God, Jesus Christ, says, "You've become lukewarm, and I will spit you out." And that's just like so jarring to hear something like that. But I really think that that's what sainthood is, you know, there's the fire of the Holy Spirit constantly kindling inside you if you don't allow God to continuously stroke it. And if you don't go out of your own way to seek that, to seek the fanning of the fire, it'll die and it'll become really lukewarm and things like that. So, you know, yeah, okay, I got confirmed at 16, 17, 18, however old, but that's not the end of it. You know, it's like sainthood is constantly asking Christ to keep you warm, to keep you hot, so that you do not become lukewarm, and so that you, because the thing is, you likely won't do well if all you do is just stay lukewarm. That's just kind of that's how faith is. It's a strange thing. But.
Yeah. That makes me think about, I don't remember, I was like reading something on the internet and
like we all do.
Yes. And a question came up on the page and it asked me like, how is your holiness going? And it's like, imagine just like having a conversation like, Emma, how is your holiness going? Like, I realized, like, thinking about that question, you can't really have, like, if we are striving for sainthood, you can't have a lukewarm answer. I'm like, oh, you know, like, it's all right. Like, there isn't really space for a neutral answer when it comes to saying yes to God. It's either yes or no. Like, I mean, I don't want to be like, if you're not, like, on fire, you're wrong. But, like, you know, where's your heart? It's either saying yes or no. And even if there's like a little bit of desire or hope, you know, that I would say that is saying yes. But like, yeah, I really like what you said about like we can't be lukewarm when it comes to striving for sainthood.
Right. Right. And I mean,
yeah.
I also just want to put this disclaimer because I realize I'm like, oh no, I hope that this doesn't alienate people. You know, if you're struggling with your faith life, like we all do, let's just be real, every single person does, if they're a committed follower of Christ, Jesus still takes a look at the tiny, tiny, tiniest little sparks in your heart and considers that a fire still for him, you know? So it's like, he doesn't leave us, he doesn't abandon us, and he's not like, wow, you're not like incinerated on fire for me. I don't want to walk with you anymore.
What is Meshach?
No, because he is that living flame of love, you know. So he goes out of his way to restore us to where we must be. So please don't take this as like, you're not on fire, you're not going to heaven. It's literally just us saying like, do you want the fire there? The fire wants to be there. Yeah. It wants to burn.
Yeah. I think I was thinking of it in like the context of I don't even know. I think it made me think of this one post that I saw on Facebook of like, if you just want to like not do anything in your life, that's okay. And I was like, I don't know if that's okay.
That's not okay, by the way.
Like, I think everybody has a purpose in their life and some sort of higher thing to achieve that is meaningful. And, like, yeah. So, I don't know where I was going with that.
No, I think
anyway, I lost my train of thought.
No, you make a good point because I think that type of thinking is very what do you call it? Just like in your own
nihilistic
brain. Yeah, nihilistic, as in like you're not thinking about your influence on other people and like, because I mean, no matter how isolated or removed you are, like you have a sphere of influence, and I feel like you have a responsibility to do something in it, you know what I mean? So if you're just like, if you don't do anything with your life, it's fine, and it's like, but then what does that not doing anything mean, or like what consequences does that have? Like, it's gonna have consequences if you are just like chilling and not thinking about anything, you know what I mean? I don't know, but anyway, I was gonna go back to Lorraine's mention of Teresa of Avila, because
My girl.
I don't know much about her because I haven't read that much, but my mom is reading Interior Castle right now. And
oh, it's so good.
Oh my gosh,
it's so good.
My mom is like, she's my mom is definitely a fan. She's telling me about just this, like, you know, this like ecstasy that Teresa of Avila had for God, and just like, oh my gosh, I like can't even process it, but like my mom just shared a little excerpt from her about that, and I don't know, it's like you can feel just the sheer amount of joy and like confidence that she has when she reaches that point, like in her interior castle, right? And I'm just like, how can you not like want that, I guess?
Yeah,
it's like you read that and it like convicts you so powerfully, because like even me right now, right, I feel I am lukewarm, like I'm just gonna say like it's been very hard for me to like think about like, oh, I okay, because freaking our friend Lucci always does this where he's like, let's be saints, or he's like, how are you guys on your journey to sainthood? And I'm like, every time I get like smacked in the face because I'm like, oh my gosh, I like haven't been thinking about it. He does it every time we talk.
That's true.
And like, but then like even if you are lukewarm and you like see someone who has like reached that point, it's just like so hard for you not to want it, you know what I mean? Like, you have to really actively say like, no, I don't want it, for you to like not have that desire, I guess. So, the desire for sainthood, I feel like, is pretty easy if you really understand what it is.
If you knew what it was, like if you just had a taste.
Oh my gosh, imagine. Oh my gosh, I feel like if we each had a 0.1 second taste of what sainthood feels like, we would like throw our whole lives away.
I would throw away my house.
I would throw away everything.
All of my stuff. Just like, it's all for you, Lord. I don't
Seriously.
care. I'll just die now. But, oh shoot, I was gonna say something.
I'm sorry.
No. Don't apologize. But yeah, Lucci does do that a lot. Where he's like, hey T, how's your prayer life? And I'm like, I haven't prayed. I'm like, I'm sorry.
You better pray.
You better pray.
The joke is that Teresa one time threw a blanket over her head. Oh no! Was it Emma? I can't remember which was. Okay, no, it was Teresa. Someone threw a blanket over her. We're like, Sister Teresa.
I'm like, what would a nun say? You better pray. Oh gosh, I'm sorry to all the nuns.
It's because we really admire religious women.
Yes, that is not actually how they act.
This is
you don't know that.
Okay, maybe there is one that does that.
That's what
I wouldn't know. I'm not religious.
If T ever goes into religious order,
the first thing I do, you better.
As an aside, I just to like continue the laughs and giggles. Have you ever noticed the way that girls are around religious women? We're always like, sister, hi, and then it's this like very elegant, sweet, like, oh, how's your prayer life? Oh, and then I love seeing the women around the friars over at our Newman Center, because it's just so different. Like, hey, how's it going?
Oh my gosh.
Goodness.
Just something to
well,
laugh
I think
at.
it's because we don't have much exposure to women in religious life,
Which is a problem.
And yeah, I think we
Yeah, it's a
need to
problem.
have more opportunities to encounter them, because I noticed that where I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta be like really holy in front of these sisters.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
hi, sister.
Oh my
And then they're like
goodness.
the most casual people on the planet.
I
They're
know.
like, yeah, I'll take a pepperoni pizza. And you're like, what? You eat a pepperoni? Like, what?
Pizza. And then with the friars, you're just like, hey.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it just made me think of like Sister Miriam James from Salt. She's a very prominent speaker. And she was like telling a story about how like she was in the line at Chipotle or something like that, and it was like Lent, and it wasn't Friday. So like she was ordering like a burrito or something like that with meat, and like the guy standing behind her was like, "Wait, you eat meat during Lent?" he was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, I want my burrito with meat today."
Oh my god!
And like how wigged out he was. I was
Oh
like,
my
what
gosh.
do they think
I
sisters
bet you his
do?
world just changed. Like,
Oh my god.
she's eating a burrito with meat. I like that. That's her response. Yeah, I want my burrito with meat.
It was something like that. Like you'd have to listen to the whole talk, but yeah, she was kind of incredulous that this guy was like, what does he think we eat? Like, does he think we don't eat certain
Honey,
Like, just
bark
bread
and
and-
honey.
right?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, I do want to like befriend more women in religious life. We have a friend in religious life.
Yes, we
Kat.
do.
Oh
Our
my
friend
gosh.
Kat. Our friend
Oh.
Catherine Nguyen.
I was
She
like,
is a
who?
novice.
Wait, what is the order again?
Oh, Order of Mary Queen, if I remember correctly.
Wow.
So their charism focuses on childhood, spirituality, and she is around young children, and they take their spiritual model to be Saint Therese of Lisieux.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That's like just the most wholesome thing ever.
I know. I'm just like, that is, wow. I can't even
Kat.
say Kat. We
Yeah,
have to
she's-
say
oh my gosh.
Sister Catherine.
Sister Catherine.
Sister Catherine Teresa is her religious name,
Oh yeah,
right?
right. Sister Catherine Teresa.
That's how many
so
syllables? Sister
So much longer than just
Teresa.
cat.
That's 8 syllables.
Sister Catherine.
She just counted it. You fool.
Sorry.
Sister.
I wanted to do it myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes it more
problem with
real.
Okay. All right. What were we talking about?
I know, shoot.
We're still on topic. Religious life.
Yeah.
Clumsy,
Yeah.
candid Catholics.
We're clumsy. I don't. Yeah. It's hard to strive for sainthood. This is a question that has been on my mind for the last, I think, couple of months. Just after graduating college, you know, there's this pressure to like, you gotta go find your job and your career and go know what you want to do after college. You have to know exactly what you want to do and stuff. And I was really in that mindset for a really long time, and it was very exhausting. And so the question that I want to propose to you guys is, do we think about striving for sainthood as much as we do our careers?
Ha ha.
Ha,
So-
ha.
Okay, next.
Well, okay, here's my response. I think given the way that events have played out this year and being in the midst of a civil rights movement, being really just in the midst of intense questioning of the social structures and fabrications that rule over our lives, I will say for myself, by no means am I sponsoring or denouncing anything, but I have noticed that there are internalized forms of capitalism within myself that I truly think that Christ at this current moment is asking me to dismantle and is wanting to break down. I don't usually talk about this, but I have been feeling really insecure the past like month and a half. Actually, just for a long time now, I think since graduating college, because you know, all of our friends, they're all really wonderful people. And some of us have like jobs lined up. Some of us have found jobs right after. And We have a dear friend who I constantly joke around him, and I'm like, I will marry you out of convenience because you are making so much money out of college within the first year. He's a wonderful person. And I would not marry him out of convenience. Anyway.
He works at Amazon.
Okay, don't. Here's the thing though. Like, when you are surrounded by such high achieving individuals who are also striving for sainthood, I think it's really easy to feel like you're doing something wrong, right? Because I got my degree in classics. My stuff is in archaeology. No one had a season this last summer, and it's like, well, even if we are doing archaeology, you know what we're actually doing? It's more like we're doing like, backup research, paperwork, all this stuff. No one's out in the field and doing stuff right now, or in museums and curating stuff. So with this question, am I thinking about sainthood as much as I'm thinking about my career? I don't know if the question is in quantity as much as it is in the way that I'm thinking about this. Because I keep looking at where I am in my life, and I'm like, I need to get a job. I should write. I should do something. I need to go. I can write. I can do all this stuff. I need to figure out my academic work, blah, blah. I need to keep my edge sharp and apply for all these other grants and da, 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 da. And I'm just going to be frank. That has dominated a lot of my headspace. Because I feel emotionally very sad that I'm like, why do I feel so unfulfilled? But as I said earlier, just a few moments ago, Christ is really looking at me and he's like, you have based so much of your life on how other people see you. And your biggest source of pride, Lorraine, is when people can look at you and admire you. You need to understand what it's like when nobody takes a look at you and when you're alone with me. That is truly who you really are. Yeah. And I think that in realizing that and saying that out loud, it like literally takes my breath away, because it's a completely different form of life to be detached from social media, to be basically just unseen by people. It's a hard way. And it does force my mind into thinking like, no, Lord, this is where you've called me. You have called me specifically to go into the silence, and you have called me to be detached from all of these other things. So in a way, it's like, yeah, I'm thinking about my career, and then I think like, none of that really honestly matters as much as my desire to pursue you, Lord, even in these dark places when nobody gets to see me anymore. It's a weird place for me to be.
No.
Wow. That is something to think about.
I know.
That makes me think, I just had this thought as you were talking. I think I also struggle with like a capitalistic mindset of like, I have to profit. Everything I do has to have some sort of profit. And it made me think about kind of going back to our first question of what it means to be a saint, and what we were talking about with, we have to be like Saint Teresa of Calcutta or Saint Teresa of Avila. Sometimes God calls people to be saints in the most boring ways. Or like seemingly boring ways. Like if you are called to live out sainthood in a very mundane job, that is your calling. There is, I can't remember which saint this was, but there is a man whose job was to just be a gatekeeper, and he would just like let people in and let people out, and that was what he did for like the majority of his life. And then he became a saint. I can't remember who it was,
remember who that is. But
it was just this very holy man, and you would think like, oh, that guy's not really doing anything with his life except opening a gate, but he just had so much love to express to people in that really small task. And it's like, we have to remember that being like sainthood, it does not equal extravagance or fame or big showy, bells and whistles. Like if the core of sainthood is humility and love, then like we have to accept that sometimes sainthood is really silent, or it's really just between you and God. Right. So that's what your thoughts made me think of a lot. But I guess for me, do I think about sainthood as much as my career? No. At least not right now. Like, I'm working up to, integrating desiring sainthood into my life more. And I think what caused me to think about this question was like I think about a month ago, I was interviewed by this Catholic artist blog. And around the time, that was when I was like starting up my Patreon, and I was really trying to do this whole brand strategy thing with my freelance stuff with music. And so this blog, they sent me the questions, and one of the questions was, what was a time where you were truly living out your vocation as an artist? And I talked about one of my So Far concerts. And at that concert, or at that show, I told people how I was Catholic and stuff. I think I mentioned this before. I'm not going to go into the whole story. But I was reflecting on that question, and I was like, wow, like, I haven't invited God into my work in a long time.
Oof.
Like, I haven't asked him his thoughts. I've always just thought about what other people think of me. Like, am I thinking about what God thinks about my work? And I realized that because I had this capitalistic mindset about my career and my freelance business, it was really exhausting. And I was putting so much of my worth in how many likes I was getting on Instagram, how many followers I had, who was like, how many clients I had and stuff. And then I was like, you know what, if I just thought about sainthood even for a fraction of the time that I think about my career, how radically would my life change, and how radically would I personally change? And so from that, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try and spend like 5 minutes in prayer every morning. Just, that's all I can do right now. I can't really do more than that, but I'm gonna start there. And then I think that just really helped me to reunite my identity with the Lord and refocus my ambitions toward just being with God. And ultimately, I feel like I've been a lot more at peace. I'm obviously still working on it. Like, I'm not perfect, but yeah, that's where I am.
That's so good. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah.
Right, because God is calling us to more than 5 minutes of prayer. But
Yes.
he's also like, oh, I see that the fire has died a bit. Let's just stroke it just a little
Yeah,
bit.
just a wee.
He really works with us where we are.
Yeah, you can start small. But
Oh yeah, for sure. You had to build up.
Yeah, for sure.
The stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone.
The cornerstone.
Well, I totally butchered that. Sorry. Anyway,
Oh my
what
God.
about you, Eam? What are your thoughts?
Okay, first of all, thanks for sharing all the stories. That gatekeeper story was really good. What was I gonna say? Oh my gosh. No.
No.
So I have been like struggling, I think, with this idea, this like myth of the plateau idea again.
Ooh, yeah.
Where I'm like, well, I can't work on my sainthood or like being holy because I am not in a vocation right now. Like I don't have a job vocation right now where I can be secure and like you know what I mean? Because like right now it feels like if I focus, my brain is supplying. If I focus on my sainthood and I spend a lot of time in prayer right now, then I'm just bumming around and not looking for a job, and I'm being like a waste to society. Kind of. So that's what I've been struggling with, because I'm like, okay, but once I get a job, then I can start focusing on my spiritual life, which is like, I mean, yeah, like, sure, right? But I don't think those have to be mutually exclusive, or like, I can do both, kind of. Because it's not like I'm spending every waking hour of my day looking for a job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so why can't I think about saying it for like an hour, you know?
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I was gonna say something. Oh, frick. Back to Lucci.
Lucci, talking about him every episode.
Lucci, yeah, okay. Lucci's he's well on his way to becoming a saint. All right. So Lucci, I was talking to Lucci because Lucci's a missionary, and I was talking to him, and he was like, "Have you considered like being a missionary?" And because I'm jobless right now, I don't have a job. And so I was like, no, I haven't thought about it. And so these past couple weeks, he encouraged me to like discern about that.
Oh,
and
boy.
I prayed a lot about it, and I actually, like, in my heart of hearts, kind of wanted God to just be like, "You are a missionary, like you were born for this."
I'm gonna have to
Because I like went purposely closer to the mic, just screaming it. Because for me, it's like if I'm a missionary, then my job is leading me towards sainthood, and so it's like for me, it's like, oh wow, it's two birds with one stone, kind of. And so I was like really hoping that like I would just get punched in the face and be like, this is my calling. But it didn't happen. I mean, yeah, sadly. I just have a lot of obligations that like I know that that's not my vocation right now. At least I'm still gonna be open to it in the future. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just like kind of stuck right now, I guess, because I'm like, I keep thinking that like I am gonna be a fuller version of me once I find my job, and once I'm secure in it, I guess. But I had a heart-to-heart with my mom yesterday. And I was like telling her, I was like, I feel like I haven't accomplished anything in like a long time, like ever since I graduated college. Like I was good at school, and now I'm just here, and like my faith life sucks, and and I just like feel like I haven't accomplished anything. And I'm like, and I told her like I find it very hard for me to progress in my relationship with God because I feel like I don't know, I can't fall in love with myself right now because I don't feel that I'm doing anything right. And then my mom was like, my mom is a very holy person. She's also on her way to sainthood, by the way. She was like, like God doesn't, I don't know, like she was just telling me like, well, God sees you and he sees that you're good, and like why do you keep like thinking that you haven't accomplished anything, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, and I was just like, that's true. Like, I don't know, God isn't looking at me and is like, you freaking jobless bum, like, you know what I mean? Like as long as I'm putting in the effort and being like, I don't know, just doing my best, and that's enough, I guess, which is weird because it's like I feel the whole thing with the interior castle is that like I'm like, which room am I in right now?
Which mansion am I floating
Which
in?
mansion am I in? Like level 10? You know what I mean? But like level 10. So I don't know. It's weird because at the same time, while sainthood is kind of like a progression where what we were talking about, where it's like you have to build up to it, and you should start small and then get better, right? But then at the same time, there's not like set levels. It's not like, well, I'm on mansion 3, so I'm a little bit closer to sainthood than you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. It's
Right. And
It's hard.
And it's called the interior castle because it is within the interior, right? Like, we're not meant to be like, Teresa, I see that you've crawled all the way back to the first mansions where all the lizards are, and you keep being tempted by like mortal and venial sin. That sucks. I'm in mansion 5.
Imagine if like everybody just had like a number floating on their head. Like, ooh, Stacy went back to. I haven't read it, so I don't know what the levels are.
Stacy went back to mansion
We love
1.
Stacy. Name dropping again. Well, I mean, yeah, this is it's just amazing how like God works, because the Interior Castle is the book that like completely changed my life the second time over in college. And I think that she, I mean, of course this is like a vision that was given over to her. It was a divine grace that Jesus really did reveal this, but the whole premise of that book is that our souls are like diamonds, and within each soul rests the Lord, the King, in the very, very, very interior, in the seventh mansions. There's 7 mansions because, what do you know? Jesus is like, 7 is my holy number. And, I mean, Teresa herself says that there are many floating rooms within all of these mansions, and many doors and many passageways, and just because one soul sometimes gets to a 3rd mansion doesn't mean that they're going to stay there.
Right.
You can move around these places all the time, and some places are harder to get into. Like, the closer you get to the center, it does get harder to advance to that stage. But nothing is permanent, and that should be encouraging, right? Like, don't think of that like, no, I want to stay in the 7th mansion forever. Because it's like, well, yeah, that's where we want to be, but we won't get to the 7th mansions forever until we die.
Yeah.
And that sounds really grim, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we really won't see God until we die. Until we go to heaven.
Yeah.
And that's the hope. That's the
Out of
dream.
purgatory.
Well, yes. Yes.
We'll see how long that'll be.
Becoming a saint means you don't spend time in purgatory.
Yeah.
You go to heaven.
Yeah. Shoot. Okay. I was thinking about, Emma, you were talking a lot about, like, I haven't accomplished anything. And that made me think about this concept of legacy. I feel like I keep going back to this, but it connects. I was talking with Anne-Marie, who was a Focus missionary last year.
We love Anne-Marie.
And I feel like we talk about her a lot, too, on our podcast. But we were talking about legacy. And I told her that one of my fears is, like, being forgotten, specifically by people at the Newman Center. Like, I was going to graduate, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, people are going to forget all the things that I did for this place and stuff. I was like, I need to have a legacy when I graduate. And then she was like, what do you want your legacy to be? And I was like, I think at the time, my desire was, I want to be known as that person who just, like, did all these things and was a PM and did the music stuff and, like, all these, like, worldly things that I did, that I, quote unquote, accomplished.
Yeah.
And I asked her, what do you want your legacy to be? And she was like, I just want to be known as the girl who really loved God.
Aww.
And I was like, and I think that is just the core of sainthood, is like loving God. Like, if that is what we strive for, is to just be known as the girls who really loved God, then I think that can take us very far. So yeah, that's, I don't have anything else to say from that. I just thought that was really
I feel like I just fell deeper in love with Anne-Marie. I'm so happy to hear that.
yeah, she's pretty cool.
Anne-Marie.
Anne-Marie. I don't know if she knows that. Anyway, if you're listening, Anne-Marie, you're great.
You're so loved.
Agree.
I love you. Okay. Anyway, moving forward into our last, I guess, section of this episode. Thinking about what we've talked about with our struggles and our perspective towards sainthood, what can we do now to become saints?
I've been waiting for this question because I've had a prepared answer for a while now. Like I said that I feel like I'm really walking in step with where Saint Teresa of Avila is right now. And my response to this question is to befriend the saints and really, really allow them to penetrate every aspect of your life. So, for example, Teresa and I have talked about how we are clothed in the brown scapular, and that is a devotion to Mary, Queen of Saints, Queen of Angels. And that is one... It is a hard thing to do, I think, for me personally, to say the rosary every single day. And yes, it's a very intense thing to daily consecrate yourself over to Our Lady, our Mother. But that is one of, I truly think that the mature spiritual life begins first and foremost with accepting Mary into your heart as the Queen of Saints. And from there, branching off, there are so many different saints in this world, you guys, like, and some of them aren't even celebrated as widely as they should be, right? Like, there's so many saints that haven't been canonized but are saints, and so they're up in heaven. There's many saints that have been canonized. There are saints who are on the general Roman calendar. There's some saints who are no longer on the Roman calendar. But if you just take a look for like 5 minutes, you like take a look at how many saints there are so many, and all of these saints all desire the same thing, and they want you to go to heaven.
Yeah.
They want you to be there, right? That's why we believe in the communion of saints. We literally say it in the creed, right? So I think my biggest advice, and I say this to myself every day, is like, are you praying to a saint, right? Like, yes, of course, like, let's pray to our mom, of course, but, you know, are you praying to your confirmation saint when you picked a confirmation saint? Or if you're not confirmed yet, are you considering being confirmed and then choosing a saint there? Are you communicating with a saint that you can really relate to? Is there a saint that you can look up to? Because I think that for much of my life, before I asked Saint Agnes to be my confirmation saint, it was kind of like, there are so many saints, and I don't know, they're all weird and interesting, and Saint Francis does weird things, and I don't know, some people levitate, weird. And now I've gotten to a point in my life where it's like, when I think of Saint Teresa of Avila, the reason why I love her so much is because I see so much of my own self in her story. And it scares me in a way, because, I mean, that is such a high thing to say. Like, she is a much better person than I am. But truly, though, you know, it's like, you read her autobiography, you read contemporary sources, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're like, well, gee, like, yeah, I feel really similar. I totally understand where you're coming from, because I've lived that in my own way. There is nothing quite like seeing a reflection of your own self in someone who has made it to heaven. There's just the intense beauty of being able to recognize that a human being called by God to love him and to love you and everyone else is similar to you, right? So it's like, in this massive communion of saints, there is someone out there who you can relate to. And if you can't find them yet, ask Jesus to show you who they are. Because I can guarantee that there is a way for each person, unique to them, to become a saint. But there are others who have walked the road before you, and there are people who can show you the way, right? So, like, my vocation is to pursue Carmelite spirituality, because that's where God is leading me. Well, then, why not look towards all of the saints who have walked this road before me, and to follow their example, right? So I think if you're not thinking about sainthood as much, or if you want to improve and think about it more often, actually talk to the saints, pray to them, and befriend them, and really invite them into your life, invite them into your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Sorry. No, that was all good stuff. I feel like I have not prayed to my confirmation saint in a really long time.
Who was yours?
Saint Cecilia.
Oh.
And, well, I just chose her because I was like, I chose her like the day before my confirmation or something like that.
You still chose her.
I did. Yeah, the Lord called me to choose her. But I was like, I guess I like music, so okay, Saint Cecilia. Without like doing any actual research on who she is. I mean, she's incredible.
Like, yeah, she's like literally so cool. One of the Roman martyrs, Virgin martyrs.
And so I'm like, dang, I should like ask for her intercession more. But I would say, what can we do to become saints? Well, Lorraine, you already kind of said it, but like prayer, daily prayer, even if it's just like a couple minutes a day, even that much can really just help you significantly, and then building it up, as we said before. Even if it's just going to a church, if you can, and just sitting there and looking at the cross or looking at the tabernacle. Like, that is a very powerful thing that you can do. But I think one thing to become a saint is remembering that you literally can't do it without God. Like, you cannot become a saint by yourself. It's just impossible. And so submitting your entire self to the Lord and asking him to guide you is a very important part of striving for sainthood. Because we can't think of it as like worldly accomplishments where we just do it purely out of hard work and opportunity. It's like, no, with sainthood, it's like the complete opposite of that, where it's like you just give it up to God. And of course, you have to be like active in the relationship, but allowing God to work within you is one of the biggest things you can do.
Right. Yeah. It takes two parts, where there is an active component of what we do, and there's a passive component of what God does for us. We must be active when we can, but more often than not, when it comes to spiritual advancement, that's a lot of passive. It's a lot of passive movement, for sure. Allowing God to work within you.
Yeah. Like, the gifts that you hold are given to you by God. They're not out of your own ambition.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, a first step to like doing that, at least for me, is like asking a bunch of questions about everything. As in, you know, if you ask yourself and you think about where has God worked the most in my life, or like where did I feel God the most? What was I doing? That can kind of inform you of like what, you know, like what Teresa was saying earlier is like everyone has a different way of becoming a saint, even if it doesn't look like it or seem like it. So if you really think about what was, you know, what was that moment where I like felt God the most, or where I was touched by God. Like that'll tell you what he's calling you to do. Also on the point, like Lorraine's point, I think looking at saints as an example is really good, but also it's important not to use them as like a direct blueprint, as in, even if you do exactly what Saint Teresa of Calcutta did, like you follow her every footstep, it's not going to be the same. Like your trajectory is going to be vastly different from hers because you're not her. And the needs of the times might have been different, and just like there's so much stuff that's different, like even from 10 years ago, right? And so that's why I think it's important to question, you know, why are you believing what you believe, what you're called to do right now, and just like just asking questions and actually trying to form real answers that can direct you somewhere, instead of just kind of dissipating into nothingness, I guess.
Right. I think you really do bring up this good point, Emma, where it's like, I mean, obviously what I'm saying is invite the saints into your life. Don't idolize them though, because one, we shouldn't be idolizing anything. Two, it's weird to idolize saints because they're not Jesus, they're not God, you know? So it's, I do want to stress that after hearing your point. I'm like, I really stand Saint Teresa of Avila, but my life is very different from what a Spanish nun in the 16th century did, right? Because I literally am living like almost 500 years after her time. Right. So, they're walking the way before you, right? And they've blazed a bit of a trail, but that is still your own path to walk. Yeah.
Wow. I wish we had more time to talk about, because like that's such a good question to ask, like, how do we be saints in today's age? Like, it almost seems like impossible with, like, I don't know, you look back on times where Teresa of Avila was alive, and it's like, oh, obviously, like, that time they needed saints. And it's like, no, we still need saints now.
Well, she literally lived through a theological crisis.
Yeah, so it's
which we are also living through, a theological crisis.
Yes. But a lot of us, I mean, I know that I can sometimes be blind to it.
Too.
But I do like, Emma, the point that you made about like asking questions, because I joined this like little small group thing called Alpha, and it's every night there's like a theme of like a question that they asked. And the first night it was, is there more to life than this? And then the next question was, who is Jesus? And then the next question was, why did Jesus die? And I realized I was very scared to ask those questions to myself, because I'm a cradle Catholic, and so it's like you don't really, at least I haven't really thought deeply about like, why did Jesus die? You know, you kind of just like, oh, because we're sinners, you know. But really thinking deeply about those questions forces you to understand your faith on a much deeper level, and ultimately can help you with sainthood. So
Yeah, man. Usually it's in times of crisis that saints emerge.
yes,
True.
very, very true. Okay, well, I feel like that's all we have for today, folks. Yes? Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to our 7th episode of Clumsy Candid Catholics. Our next episode will be in 1 month on... Oh my gosh, I don't have the date prepared. Where's my calendar? November 9th.
Nice.
Oh,
Sorry.
Is that a special day at all?
nope.
Nope. Okay. Well, November 9th, we'll see you for episode 8, again on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless. Let's be saints.
Woo!